President Hill is a rank and file trade unionist. He came up from the ranks of the working men. He was a journeyman lineman in Pennsylvania. He rose to a position as business manager, held numerous other positions in his union, including now president and leader of the IBEW. He is also a member of the AFL-CIO National Executive Board, and as such, he works with President Trumka, Secretary Treasurer Schuler, to make sure that working men and women in this country have a voice at every table, and that they push our agenda on a daily basis. I don't want to keep you any longer. I want to bring up President of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Edwin Hill. Give him a hand.
When one looks at the early life of Mary Harris Jones, it's hard to imagine that 80 years after her death, she has a foundation named after her, and is still considered one of the greatest labor activists in the history of the world. Born in County Cork in Ireland during what was arguably the lowest point in Irish history, lost her husband and her children to the ravages of the disease, lost her livelihood in the Great Chicago Fire. And how many who faced similar adversities would give up the ghost? And how many would have considered themselves fortunate enough merely to survive? Those of us who have proud of our Irish heritage, and I can claim ancestors above both sides, as the orange as well as the green, might say it is a prime example of our resiliency and our unwillingness to quit no matter what the odds. Mother Jones was a rare example of this fine human spirit, a proud member of a select few who not only resented injustice, they dedicated their lives to a great personal sacrifice to correct injustice. It includes a group of people, a humble Indian dressed in white cotton and carrying nothing but a walking stick, standing up to the greatest power on earth. It includes a shipyard electrician in Poland who defied a totalitarian state to lead a free trade union. It includes an eloquent black preacher from Atlanta who would tolerate nothing less than freedom and equality for his people. That's the company that Mother Jones keeps. The union I have the privilege to lead was founded in 1891 during Mother Jones' lifetime. In recent years, I've often said to IBEW audiences, no matter how tough we think we have it, our challenges are paltry compared to those faced by our founders when brave men and women literally risked their lives and limb to organize, and the power was entirely stacked against them and on the side of the bosses. You know, as we stand here in 2010, however, I have come to the conclusion that while this is still true, the gap is narrowing fast, and that's why the miner's angel needs to infuse her spirit into the activists and the rank and file working Americans of the 21st century. God knows we need her now. We're one decade into the 21st century, and it resembles the Gilded Age of 100 years ago when Mother Jones was on the march. And despite what we may consider a great century of progress, the numbers and the trends are disturbingly similar, and this audience knows it full well. Real incomes, down. Job creation, horribly down. Health care benefits, they're worth less than they were. Private sector pension plans, rapidly becoming extinct. Households in poverty, on the rise. Union busting, through the roof. There is more. This is more than an economic cycle. This is a systematic erosion of the way of life of the American worker. The courage and the sacrifices of Mary Harris Jones and countless other heroes created a standard living for the American workers that was the pride of the world, unparalleled in history. And as we showed the world that prosperity was not a zero-sum game, the wealthiest and the most powerful in our society could do extremely well, but so could working families. But that wasn't good enough for them. It wasn't good enough for the elite. They thought we made too much. They wanted more. And they didn't like to share the wealth that they had nor the power that they thought they had. First, they traded away good jobs to underdeveloped countries, taking advantage of cheap labor and desperate people. Started the maquiladora plants and crossed the Mexican border, quickly spread to other parts of Latin America, Asia, and now Africa. But that happened in a time when women were entering the workforce in record numbers and the opportunities were expanding for minorities. So the problem was masked. It was masked by the rise of two-income families, even though they had to both work hard to equal a standard of living that one could formerly have earned. Then we heard of a great deal about the creation of new jobs in America, and many of them were the high-tech fields and other professional occupations. But there was also a strong increase in the service sector jobs that barely paid a living wage, and were certainly not the ticket to a better standard of living. Then, upon us came the creative use of debt. Housing prices rose across the board as interest rates fell. Money was readily available through mortgages and credit cards, allowing the appearance of prosperity, when in reality it was a charade of wealth. Meanwhile, debt itself became a financial instrument, one that found its way into the portfolios of major banks and investment houses. We all know what happened next. The American financial system ran out of tricks. The bubble burst. The house of cards collapsed, and the process of the gap between the very wealthiest and the rest of us became almost futile in proportion. The line between the haves and the have-nots became more distinct, and many who never thought their standard of living would go anywhere but up have now fallen behind where their parents were and are living more like their grandparents did. The disintegration of the middle class, it didn't happen overnight. It took place over the better part of 4 decades now, and at each step along the way, not enough voices were raised in protest because there were enough of us left who still had a fair share. And we thought we were getting our fair share, but now the trends I mentioned before are staring us right in the face, and they're threatening to overwhelm us. You know, it's in times like these you would expect that there would be a widespread anger. And you would be right. There is anger. There's anger in this land. It blares from the TV sets every day. It screams from the headlines of the newspapers, at least for those of us who still read a newspaper. It jumps off the screens of our computers and smartphones. And the anger it's on the right. It's the anger of people who have good things in life, who have achieved the American dream and think someone's going to take it away from them. It's the anger of the people who got a helping hand up the ladder of success, who now want to pull it up and strand those below in a scuffling existence. It's the anger of the grassroots, assuming that these roots are from the lush suburban lawns that are maintained by other people's labor. And when you look at the source of their information, I might add that those lawns are extremely well fertilized. I think you know what I'm talking about. A centrist president has had the temerity to even propose a relatively modest reforms in health care, or regulation on Wall Street, or letting the billionaire tax cut expire. For that, he's branded a socialist, as well as one of the most anti-business presidents in history. Of course, those talking points didn't originate from Rush Limbaugh or his spawn in the radio, nor did they start with the animations of Fox News. They're generated in think tanks, and the back room is funded by the most elite of the elite, some of whom, like Rupert Murdoch and Richard Mellon Scaife, that we know of, but many others who remain in the shadows, remain hidden from view. And they have found far too many willing sheep to go along with him in the Tea Party and in elsewhere. We see it all about an all-out assault on public employees that have left teachers and firefighters and others caught up in its wake. We see it when the card check organizing system was condemned as the greatest threat to truth, justice, and the American way, in the language that would made Joe McCarthy blush. You see it when major party candidates for federal office articulate ideas and positions that were once consigned to the despised fringes of the political thought process. All I can say is thank God the robber barons didn't have Facebook, or might be here under duress to celebrate the life of J.P. Morgan instead of Mother Jones. This is nothing new. The robber barons and those like them that controlled the most powerful media of their day bought and they sold politicians without the benefit of the oversight of the Federal Election Commission. They've always tried and will continue to try to get away with as much as they possibly can. My problem is not with them, brothers and sisters. They're as predictable as the sunrise. My problem is with us. Where is our anger? I was there on October the 2nd when about 100,000 men and women from all walks of life rallied in Washington, D.C. as part of the One Nation March. It was a beautiful sight, much more reflective of the real America than the Glenn Beck's lawn party over the summer. And now on October 30th, the hipster crowd will speak the language of irony when they have their say under the leadership of Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. The AFL-CIO has led rallies. I've been part of them on Wall Street and K Street to protest against those who cause a financial crash and stop foreclosures. So yes, we are taking to the streets to some extent. But that's not enough. Last week, thousands of people gathered in Paris to protest the government's plan to raise the retirement age. Similar moves by other governments have brought people to the streets where tires got burned and tear gas filled the air. Plant shutdowns in South Korea and other places have stirred workers to take their bosses hostages, not to hurt them, but just to let them know they're not going anywhere until workers' demands are met. All around the world, workers get it. If they don't fight for their jobs and their ability to make a living, no one else will do it for them. For them, it is literally a matter of life and death. Contrast that with America. Maybe it's a tribute to our national sense of optimism and the past vibrancy of our economy that our workers feel that there's always another opportunity just around the corner. The harsh reality is the Great Recession has turned the optimism on its head. We don't think that anymore. The years of industrial erosion and the weakening of health and retirement benefits have taken their toll. There is no fallback. There is no opportunity around the corner. The job machine is broken down. The social safety net is frayed beyond recognition. Our elites tell us that business cannot be expected to provide expensive health care and retirement plans and still compete in the global market. They also fight like hell when against the government stepping up and filling the void, even attacking Social Security at every chance they get. They've been trying to do away with it since it was formed. But if you're waiting for them to offer an alternative, you wait in vain. Their silence, brothers and sisters, is their answer. So welcome to the jungle. You know, they call us socialists, and worse times for seeking equilibrium in society, saying we're destroying the core American values. They say they don't want us to turn America into a European-style social democracy. We should ask them the logical counter-question then, but we don't. Why do they want to turn America into a society whose values mirror that of those of a banana republic? Why? And still our anger only simmers. Perhaps we're the victims of our own success. Maybe the organizing struggles of the 20th century and the era of prosperity after World War II left us complacent. We have evidence all around us, and I have had to confront them in our own union, that we thought the good times that we saw would last forever. We lost our edge. while the workers of the late 19th century had nothing else to lose, thus would fight with their lives and the lives of their families. We do have something to lose. Those of us that are fortunate enough to still be working and still have some decent benefits and good homes and standing in the community have something to lose. And the generations of children we reared and sent to college have, for the most part, achieved success, absorbed the culture of the upper middle class. We educated enough of them to buy into the myth that rugged individualism at the expense of collective action and social responsibility. Unless there be any doubt, I'm not generalizing or singling out today's young people. This has been going on for decades, and members of all generations are guilty of forgetting where we came from. Remember Patco? I'm sure you do. Do you mind if I take a drink? Remember Patco? The Union of Air Traffic Controllers? They thought they were powerful enough to strike against the federal government, and the Reagan administration would be powerless to stop them. I remember that. I was there. They were wrong. In one fell swoop, Ronald Reagan struck a blow against organized labor that no piece of the administration, no piece of legislation could ever accomplish. He not only broke a federal union, he emboldened his base of support from corporations to small businesses to crush the rights of their own workers. And we stood idly by. As our leaders convinced us that after all, they did break the law. I'm convinced that our greatest mistake in the movement was not standing up to Ronald Reagan when we had a chance. It was not enough for us to issue press releases and write editorials or even stage the massive and very successful Solidarity of 1981, Solidarity Day, you'll remember. Some of you were there, I was. When the other side declared class war, Mother Jones would have said, damn the law, and would have led massive walkouts and a series of rolling strikes or other tactics designed to slow resistance to the abuse of power. We did not, and it is to our shame. And that led to the problems that confront us to this day, till we're standing right here. Perhaps it's because the American worker and the union member of today feel beaten down. We have not been beaten down with clubs and guns. We have not been driven out of our workplaces and our homes by force, not at all. But the results are the same and no less intimidating. Our spirits have been beaten down with relentless propaganda, propaganda that even our own members believe. We've been deprived of our rights, union busters wielding briefcases instead of sticks. We've been lulled to sleep with flat-screen televisions, powerful pickup trucks, iPhones, and marketplaces stuffed with cheap consumer goods from the sweatshops of the world. And this has not been done to us. We have let it happen. Forgive me if I'm starting to sound like one of those guys with a tinfoil hat carrying a handmade sign warning that the end of the world's coming. You see, I firmly believe that the world, a better world, a fairer world, a saner and cleaner world, is there for the taking. And I believe, and will believe till my last day on this earth, that the labor movement will be the primary instrument of social justice. But, as I am fond of saying, it will not just happen. We cannot sit back and let somebody else do the heavy lifting. Each of us, each of you, brothers and sisters, is that someone else. You and I, brothers and sisters, all of us in this room, and the millions more across our land. Our anger has simmered over the past few years, and while others have hogged the media spotlight, but it's out there. as one who's had the privilege of leading a great union, I've tried to convey our reality to those in power. I've met with our employers, ranging from small electrical contractors who employ 5 of our members to the CEOs of major corporations who control billions of dollars and employ thousands of workers. I've even spoken to the President of the United States when they've opened the door to us. And there's nothing special about me. It's because they know that I represent electrical workers from all across the continent, 750,000 strong. That's why they'll listen to me at all. But they're not listening. Not well enough. Not even close. And it's time to rebuild our movement from the ground up. It's time to start within our own neighborhoods and communities, and we reach out to our brothers and sisters, those with union cards and those without. It's time for us to open our minds, our hearts, our souls to the spirit of Mary Harris Jones, and let some of her passion for justice rekindle our own inner flame. We stand on the brink of losing what so many of our ancestors fought for. They fought to achieve. Passivity, complacency, and inaction have brought us to the edge. We're standing on the edge of a precipice. It can lead. We can let others push us over, or we can claw our way back from the edge. And I like what I'm hearing at all levels of our movement, but it will take more than words to get us back to where we belong. We cannot afford to worry about being nice or being liked or gaining acceptance of the powerful. They will never like us. They will never accept us or admit that we, the workers of America, have a right to a decent life. They will never admit it. Even those who have worked with us and cooperated with us in the past have turned on us because they saw an opening to do so. The recession gave them that opening. I'm all for mass demonstrations and showing our strength in numbers. But we have other means at our disposal. Technology is cheap today and effective and allows us to communicate with more people than ever before. Movements are reborn through very, very small actions. Small actions here and there. Resisting injustice in your own workplace or your community is the first place to start. Organizing remains the paramount mission. There are ways to do that, too numerous to mention, and many of you are already doing it. Above all, the key word is resist. Resist the destruction of our way of life. Resist the lies of our opponents. Resist those who will tell you that you don't have a right to make a living and to protect your family. We have had songs and sayings in the labor movement about choosing sides, but perhaps Mother Jones said it best in 1925, and I'll paraphrase her words. You are the ones that can say solidarity and call each other brothers and sisters. The oppressor can only claim nothing but his greed. So let us remember that when we hear about the next round of bonuses and pay raises on Wall Street, let us remember those words when an anti-union contractor runs for governor of Illinois and tells working people that he knows what's best for them. Let us remember when the noxious, self-appointed tribunes of the middle class spout their crazy theories on cable news. And most of all, brothers and sisters, let us leave here and begin the process of reclaiming what is ours, our country, our rights, our freedom, and most of all, our dignity. Thank you very much for hearing me, and God bless you all.
This will be my 5th building downtown.
I love heights. I like it up here. You kind of get away from it all.
That's what I love about this city. It'll never be finished. The way I see it, we all have to look out for each other, just like a family. I work up at the top, putting precast concrete into place. Up here, you have to work as a team. The union's on my team. To get the job done right, done safely. The union helps us make sure that the site is safe and that we're safe. Looking out for us up here and in other ways. It's like with our apprentice program. It made sure I had the right kind of training, so I knew how to take care of myself and take care of my job. It's a real good feeling to be a part of it and a part of history.